What's up, ladies and gentlemen? We're back. Joe's still on the camera. John Paul wasn't able to make it today. How you doing, Joe?
Doing good. And welcome back to episode 59 of Backhouse Productions. Happy to get another one in this week. We got a lot to talk about. I want to kind of start off the show by just going straight into the transfer portal and college football and how that's really changed college sports for the worst, in my opinion. I think college football, college basketball, mainly those two sports, the landscape has completely changed when it comes to college athletes.
So when did it change, and what was it like before it changed?
Well, the altercation is, it's like, okay, players can make money now. They can use their name, image, and likeness to make money and profit from it.
Okay, but
what's different now is the transferring of the portal. So the transfer portal can basically be
like, what was it like in 2017 before it changed? What was it like? How was the transfer portal? How did it work?
Well, there wasn't a transfer portal. Okay, so all you can do, so
if you want to transfer to a different school.
All right, if you wanted to transfer to a different school, like say I'm at USC and I want to transfer to UCLA in the same city. If you transferred to UCLA, you would have to sit out a year.
So if you're a football player or a basketball player.
And I think it burned your eligibility too. Like you got to sit out a year because you didn't have a redshirt year anymore. If you did redshirt, you lose a year and you have to sit out a year. But now you can play immediately right after the season. So now you go up to like 2023, someone who plays at Northwestern can transfer to Oregon
and play that next season.
Play the following season.
That's why so many people are transferring now.
Well, it's way easier.
Because people were scared to transfer before because they would lose the eligibility.
Because it really hurt you.
Yeah.
And so what that did is now there's a million kids in the transfer portal because there's so many more options to go around. And now the difference is, though, with that is like, how do you recruit these kids that go to your school? Well, now it's all with money. Like you can pay these kids, you can get donors to get the recruits money. And so now it's like the transfer portal is now free agency for college sports. And it's completely ruined the integrity of the game because no more can you bring in a guy and develop him for 4 years into a program. It's like high school kids are barely getting recruited. JUCO kids are barely getting recruited. What college coaches are doing now, mainly for college football, is they'll bring in a guy that has 2 years left to play, who's already played at like Michigan, played at a high program.
Yeah, I remember you were talking to me about that. Like, Auburn probably has 5 quarterbacks. You used Auburn as a school, and say the 4-string quarterback enters the transfer portal to go to a school like NC State, somewhere that's still cool, but they see this guy's been at Auburn for 2 years. Like, we could take him in, and he could probably be our 1st or 2nd stringer this year.
Yeah, so everything's plug and play. So there's no real pride in your school. Like, it's kind of just like a means to an end for you now. Like, there's no real like integrity for like putting on the stripes, putting on the colors. It's just like you're just trying to get your resume, you're just trying to get film, and it's like less catered to like a team sport and more catered to you as a player selfishly.
And who's going to give me the most money?
And it's ruining high school kids. It's ruining JUCO kids because they can't go anywhere now because you got a bunch of kids transferring every other year. Like there's this one kid. His name's Drew Pine. He played at Notre Dame 2 years ago. He started at Notre Dame, played a good amount of time.
What position?
Played decent. He was a quarterback.
Yeah.
Played at Notre Dame. Really good. Big, 4-star recruit out of high school. Plays at Notre Dame, doesn't work out for him or the way he thought it was going to work out, so he leaves, goes to Arizona State. Played this last season, he was at Arizona State, barely played. Now he's in the portal again.
So now he's going
to
find every year.
Yeah, so now he's going to just keep leaving, and that's taking a roster spot from some high school kid that maybe wants to play. But they're going to see like, hey, Drew Pine has played at Arizona State, played at Notre Dame. We know he can play football, so let's just put him in.
I have a theory about this now. So since all these big schools are always looking into the transfer portal now, I feel like you're going to start seeing like combine recruits, like kids getting invited to the combine or people even getting drafted from some small schools you've never even heard of really. Like I guess like maybe there'll be more kids now drafted from places like Sam Houston State or schools like that because the kids coming out of high school that are legit that would have been going to a school like Michigan aren't going there anymore because there's so many good kids coming in the transfer portal that are already older than them and more developed. They're going to go to these other schools where they're going to be able to play right away, and they're still dogs. But then they might end up transferring in their second year to go to a school like Michigan.
Yeah, but you got to think about like I'm going to use Notre Dame again. Like They just brought in another quarterback this year to go play at Notre Dame as
Sam Hartman?
as like a 6-year senior. No, Sam Hartman was this year. They did that with him from
Where
Wake
did he
Forest.
go before?
Wake Forest,
yeah.
And so now the other kid, Riley Leonard from Duke, he's been in the Duke's program for 4 years. He's now going to Notre Dame to start.
And he's going to be their guy
So,
this
like,
year.
think about the kids that are in Notre Dame's program that are trying to play quarterback for that university, for that team, and they keep getting jumped. They keep getting, like, hurdled over by these big, like, 5-year quarterbacks and taking their spot, and it's like a trickle-down effect. So then that kid's like, well, now I'm screwed. Now I have no chance of playing this year, so now I'm going to leave. Now I'm going to go to, I don't know, any smaller school, take it, name or guess it, like Mid-Tennessee or Middle Tennessee State.
They're solid, though.
They're solid. So I guess it makes the teams, like the lower teams, better.
Because I've noticed that over the last couple of years, too.
But you're ruining the development of younger kids and keeping them in your program.
Yeah.
Like, here's a team, for example, and you have to play the transfer portal game because this is a team that didn't play the transfer portal, and now they're suffering because of it, and that's Clemson. Clemson decided we're going to still develop our players. We're going to bring them in as freshmen, and they're going to play as juniors and seniors and be under Clemson. Like, they're going to work their time up and finally play. Well, now they don't have enough talent anymore. Now you can't even compete against teams in the ACC anymore.
Yeah.
Now they're a mid-level team. So you have to change with the rules, and those rules are just ruining. I just think it's ruining, like, I think Tebow made a great point about this when he was talking about NIL when it was first being talked about, like players making money off their image and likeness. Tim Tebow probably would have been a multimillionaire if out of Florida if this was around when he was playing college sports.
Sure.
But he said that what makes college sports so precious is that these kids are playing for a bigger paycheck one day to get to the NFL.
Now they don't even care as much.
No, because they're making money already in college. And they're less worried about, like, their pride in the school, the rivalry games, making an impact on your university, your community. It's more about self. It's more about making money. It's less about teamwork. It's less about camaraderie. It's less about development. And it's just it's made it kind of like a circus show. Like, I think about, like, Caleb Williams. I think about these big-time quarterbacks making multi-million dollars a year now just staying in college, and then half the team doesn't even make any money. And so there's this inequality in college sports that was never there before, and now there's superstar treatment, and it's just ruined the entire integrity of the game because it's not a better product than the NFL. They're still developing, but yet we're treating them like they're professional athletes, but they're not professional athletes yet. So I just wanted to get down on the transfer portal.
I saw a thing about Marvin Harrison. He was thinking about, obviously he's going to be a top 5 draft pick this year.
Yeah,
he's thinking about staying now.
I like that.
He wants to win a Big Ten championship. He wants to go to the college football playoffs, and he knows he can make more money staying in college than going and being a first-round draft pick.
Let's be honest, he's not going to stay.
He might.
He's not going to stay. Like, Caleb was entertaining it. Obviously, Caleb's not going to stay.
If they would have got closer to making it to, like, the playoffs this year, if they were like the 6th seed or something, like, he could have stayed. That's more of a reason. He's like, okay, shit, next year we're going to be even better. We can make it.
Yeah.
But they're 7-5.
It's just I think it's kind of just one of the symptoms of, like, our world as a whole, because there's just so many more options today. There's just so many more access to people, so many more options to use from. Like, it's not just like you're recruiting from your region anymore. You can recruit to the entire country. You can get someone across the country that can play for your team now.
I think that all comes back to social media.
No, it does.
Social media plays the biggest role in that.
You have to market yourself now as a player because you have to be your own agent, basically. You have to market yourself to teams. You can't just be a good high school kid who's, a well-rounded football player. No, you have to, like, get into social media to even get people to know who you are.
Yeah.
To even discover you. And because there's so many options. It's like, and the question is, how do you stand out now more than ever? Because there's just so many more options to choose from. How can you stand out as an individual in today's world? And I think the transfer portal and college football, I think it's a symptom of the world, and it's definitely made college sports worse because of it. So that's what I think about the matter. I think it's kind of ruins college sports. But okay. With that said, how can you be a coach in college sports today, and how can you lead men? How can you win a team over if it's constantly shifting? If there's constantly guys moving in and out of the portal, how can you keep, like, I guess, like a sense of like central command coming from one guy, coming from one message, and, like, players wanting to play for a coach? Like, what makes a great coach?
Well, you can look at a guy like Nick Saban.
Yeah.
He can instill, like, you know how a country like has nationalists, like you love your country.
Yeah, you're prideful for your country.
I think Nick Saban brings that, and other coaches too, but Nick Saban especially, like, brings that to his school. Like, gives you pride that you're playing for Alabama. You're playing for one of the best teams in the nation, and you have to constantly be one of the best teams in the nation, and be a guy like Saban or a guy like Jim Harbaugh, and make those guys realize, like, they're playing not just for yourself right now. You're playing for the whole team to win a championship. And now look at Alabama, for example. They lost to Texas early in the year. They were thinking, there's no way we're going to make the playoffs. And then they go and beat Georgia, and now they're in the playoffs, and Georgia's not. Like, I just think that for a great coach, you got to make, especially now with kids always transferring, they have no love to one school. They have no loyalty to a school.
Yeah,
it's just all
about themselves.
Yeah, it's just always about where I'm going to be able to play and where I'm going to get the most money.
Yeah.
But then there's guys like Saban and that, like, make you love the school you play for. And it's more of a team there than it is most places.
Yeah, it's like it's not permissible to be 1 foot in at Alabama.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be all in.
He won't even play you. Yeah, you got to go all in.
We will kick you off this team if you're not even all in on Alabama football.
And that's what I think makes a great coach.
Okay,
right
so
now in
that's
college.
easy to say that at a school like Alabama, but like say like a team like Tulane. Like, I know Tulane's been good the last 2 years.
Yeah.
What made that coach turn Tulane around?
The transfer portal.
You
probably.
think the transfer portal, like, he just utilized it so well? He was getting guys from dudes from LSU that weren't playing. Yeah, sure.
Tulane's
Throw
got
you
dogs, dude. Like that. Who's that running back that's in the league right now from Tulane? What school? I mean, what team is he on?
Wasn't he? I don't.
He might be on the Colts, maybe. I don't know what team he's on, but he's good, dude.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good.
I'm going to beat USC last year.
Yeah, Tulane has dogs, like guys who are getting drafted now.
I mean,
what are they ranked right now? They're ranked 12 or something.
I think they lost SMU, though, in the championship game.
They did.
So now they're unranked.
They were up there. They were pretty good.
But I think, you know what I think is so valuable now in today's world? Because I think there's a lot of cap with a lot of things. Like, I think people put on, like, this big image of what they want to be or what they're going to tell people how they see them to fit in their programs, and they constantly are just lying to them, right? Because they're telling 10 other kids the same thing. I think what, like, makes a coach really valuable and what makes, like, players want to play for a coach is a guy who understands the situations, understands what to say in the moment, but also is a man of his word, who's also, like, able to tell you, hey, you suck, or hey, like, I really like you and I'm going to use you in this way, and, like, not screw you over, right? Like, I think a coach is actually, like, transparent about what he's trying to do with the program. Like, I think Mike McDaniels is a perfect example. I know he's a coach in the NFL.
In the NFL, it's a whole different
thing.
But
the way he's the way he talks to the players, it's not like from this higher echelons of, like,
it's like
I know more than you.
Friends.
I'm better than you. You're listening to me. I'm the guy getting the money. You can't really do that in the NFL. But the way he's like, you know how Mike McDaniels is. He's a skinny dude. Like, he's a small 5'8" guy.
I noticed what you're talking about just from watching Hard Knocks, like the way he talks to the team.
Like, the players know.
F-bomb here, F-bomb there. He doesn't give a shit. Like, and it's just like he's one of their best, like one of their friends. It's not like a hierarchy or power difference. Like, he's still the head coach, but he's like a player's coach. He's a player's coach.
And I think he's awkward. Like, I think the guys, like, laugh at him too, but they know he's genuine. They know that he's going to come to work every day and he's going to tell you the truth and he's going to work his ass off. He's a genius. He's a guru. But, like, that's what made the players want to play for him. And maybe that's a little different in the NFL. Like, in college, I think there needs to be a central command. Like, there's a guy higher than the team, like the coach, because he represents everybody. He's a man. He's growing. He's like, he's developing kids to men. So that's got to be a little different. But the way Mike McDaniels goes about it, where he's super upfront about what he wants, what he expects, what he wants from his players, I think if you trickle that down and you have a transparent program, I think that's what makes a great NFL coach and college football coach. So, I don't know. I noticed you got a haircut.
Yeah, I noticed you got a haircut. So did you.
I know. I just got a haircut today. I need to get it
I gave
off.
you the idea.
I know you did, honestly. I was my hair was getting too poofy. And plus the last podcast we did, I was looking at myself in that picture we posted on the Instagram. I was like, damn, I look ugly as shit.
Yeah, my hair was just getting too long. It always, I grow it out, but it just gets too long. Like, you know, what makes me really always want to cut my hair is when I know, like, every time I take a shower and it just takes longer for me to dry my hair. Like now when my hair's this short, it's dry.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's long, it's like for a while, like, and it's still really wet. I hate that shit.
I hate how fast my hair, like how fast it takes for my hair to get greasy. Like when I have long hair and you're doing this, like you got your oily hands going through your
We just
hair.
got to shower every day.
No, but if you shower in the morning, by 2:00 in the afternoon, my hair's greasy.
Oh,
again.
that's not for me.
It sucks.
That's for you. There's
because I'm
people
doing
like
this
that.
a lot with my hair.
Yeah, mine doesn't get like that.
But that's the annoying part. But yeah, no, nice to get a haircut. Let's see what else do I want to talk about.
Well,
today.
let's hit the course today. What do you think about hitting the course with me today? We're gonna go golf after this.
I'm done the golf. I can definitely golf. I don't know. I might work out or something.
Well, I'm gonna work out too after I golf.
Hey,
We're gonna go somewhere else.
I touched on this last podcast. I want to just get to it. What do you think about the Shohei Ohtani signing with the Dodgers?
Well, if we get into that, the $700 million, it's crazy for 10 years, so $70 million a year. But we both saw that thing when it breaks down his contract. They're only paying him $2 million a year for the 10 years, and then after that, they're gonna be paying him $68 million a year for 10 years. So basically, they're only paying out $20 million of his contract over his playing time, and then once he's done with them, he's going to be getting $68 million a year for 10 years.
I saw something where it was,
which I think is really smart because you know the cap's going to go way up in 10 years.
Yeah,
and he makes how much money do you think he makes a year just from commercials and sponsorships?
probably at least 50.
50?
I think he makes $50 million from stuff he does in Japan, the stuff he does in the States. He's the
if
face
you
of
count
baseball.
Japan, yeah, you're right. Probably pretty close to that.
But what I heard this, I thought it was pretty interesting. So that money that's going to be like, it's kind of like waiting from like that $680 million. It gets taxed from where he's living.
Yeah.
So like if he was going to live in LA for the next 10 years, he was going to get taxed
Well, it's
on
not
that
even
$70 million.
It's where you play the game at. It's where it's where you play the game. So say they're playing the Astros for a series. All that time they're playing the Astros, it's taxed, and his money's taxed in Texas, so there's no state tax.
Is that actually how that works?
Yeah.
Really?
That's how football is too.
I didn't know that. But that $680 million, he's not going to get taxed like how it would be in LA. Like, say, because in 10 years he's going to be done. He's going to be retired. So he's just going to be living somewhere, and he's going to be getting that, or what he's going to be getting $68 million.
No taxes on it at all.
Yeah.
Pay zero tax on it.
No, it's a genius move, but
it's a genius move by both parties.
But it makes me like, should there be a salary cap in baseball? Because I think it's kind of ridiculous how these big market teams can just pay for anybody, and these like lower teams like the Minnesota Twins, the Oakland Athletics.
Well, you got to have a player that's willing to make that deal too, because there's a lot of players who are not willing to get $2 million a year for 10 years and then get the huge chunk of their contract after the 10 years. Like, there's a lot of players aren't Shohei Ohtani who are making all that money on sponsorships and stuff. Like, he's able to do that.
No, but I know, but the way they're able to sign players, like how they have Mookie Betts, they have Freddie Freeman, and now they got Shohei Ohtani. How are they able to afford all these players? Because there's no cap space. There's no salary cap. Like, they can just keep whatever the money they make as an organization, as a franchise. Like, think about if you go to Dodger Stadium, like you get a $20 beer.
Yeah.
Like, everything's overpriced.
And Dodger Stadium's one of the only stadiums consistently that's always packed.
Yeah, they have the number one fan base. Like, last year they had the most people showing up.
You go to a Royals game in the middle of the week at a 1:00 game.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably 1,000 people there.
Yeah.
Like, it looks empty.
Empty. This is what the Yankees were doing for 20 years before the Dodgers started
the Yankees,
buying up everybody.
Have you seen that Yamamoto kid from Japan?
Yeah.
The Yankees, I hope they get him, dude. This kid is legit. He's not Shohei because he doesn't hit like Shohei does, but he is the witchiest pitcher I've ever seen, dude. Guy throws over 100 on every pitch.
Wow.
And he's throwing balls that move that are going over 100, like cutters that'll go over 100 miles.
Japan's doing something different over there.
Dude,
they're developing some guys.
Korea's got, I feel like over the last decade or a little more than
Wait,
over the last decade.
Is that kid from Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But a little more than over the last decade, I feel like the MLB's been getting a lot of players like from Cuba, Dominican Republic, places like that, like Latin American countries. And now I'm starting to see a shift, like where people are starting to come from Korea and Japan, which is probably obviously good for the MLB because those are way bigger economies than Dominican Republic or Cuba are.
Oh yeah.
And it brings all those watchers from Japan and Korea, and they'll all spend money on merch and stuff. So it's good for the baseball as a whole. Baseball needs it because baseball's suffering, I think, man.
Oh yeah, they're not even. I think they're falling out of the top 3 big sports.
Yeah, their World Series viewership is less than like half of what a normal NFL game is.
But do you think if you were able to spread the talent out a little bit more, like if the Dodgers weren't able to have all these guys and maybe Shohei goes to the Blue Jays, like if Shohei went to the Blue Jays.
Blue Jays are really good.
Like you can't afford.
Yeah, but the Blue Jays are good.
Okay, but if he was on the Blue Jays, they'd be pretty damn good. With Guerrero,
yeah, they already are pretty damn good.
He's a stud.
Yeah, they're already pretty damn good.
But you got these big market teams just like swallowing up all these players, and it's like there's no cap space. They don't get punished for it just because they're a bigger market. They can pay for these players, and it's kind of like it makes it unfair almost.
I don't know. I think there still is a cap space in baseball.
No, there's not.
Are you sure?
They can pay for whoever. You cannot go over.
Up.
There's no cap space in baseball. That's why the Yankees. You remember when A-Rod got that big contract in the early 2000s, $256 million. No one could afford that at the time, but the Yankees were able to just scoop him up. I'm telling you, yeah, it's zero cap space.
They have a luxury tax called the competitive balance tax in place of a salary cap. The balance tax regulates the total sum of money a given team can spend on their roster, so they pay a tax.
Okay, but if you're the Dodgers, you can
don't
afford that.
Yeah,
it's not even
care.
a problem.
Yeah.
So it's like a monopoly in baseball because whoever has the most money is going to get all the players. So I don't know.
But there's teams, dude, like the Twins. How you're saying the Twins?
They won the World Series a couple of years ago, right? Or
No.
they were in the World Series.
No, but they were really good this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were really good. They had a great record. I'm pretty sure they made it to the playoffs, and like they were really good. Same with like look at the Astros. Like they have guys that you probably don't even know other than Altuve, and they are consistently winning the World Series. And
but they have to rely on their
World
farm
Series.
system. They have to develop guys. Like they can't just scoop up.
Well,
people.
they don't have all these big name guys that you know. Like the Astros get these guys, and they're just a good. They
got Justin
team.
Verlander there when they won it.
Yeah, but Verlander's not that great anymore, dude. He's not like how.
Yeah,
like,
how he was in his prime on Detroit.
Like he's not Shohei.
Yeah, but dude, it's just if the Dodgers don't win the World Series this year, I think they should just sell the team.
You know what I think? I think if the Dodgers had, instead of having Shohei, and they had like Trey Turner and Corey Seager and Bellinger.
Yeah,
I think they're way better than with Shohei.
It'd be so diabolical though if Shohei could pitch. He's not going to be able to pitch next year.
That's what I was going to get at. Why not?
Because he tore his. I think he had Tommy John surgery.
Then
so
that's
it's
going to
be in 2 years he'll be able to pitch for the Dodgers.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about Shohei. Why he could eventually be named the greatest baseball player of all time is because he's a guy who's, when he pitches, he's the best pitcher in the league. Like when he used to pitch for the Angels last year, because the Angels had a really poor hitting team. Like other than Shohei and Mike Trout, they couldn't hit.
Yeah.
And they would never really score a lot of runs, but they'd win games when Shohei would pitch, but the score would be like 4-0 or something, or 4-1. And you could always bet on the unders, like 9.5 runs total. And I would always bet the under when Shohei pitched because he's just a witch, dude. He's so good. And that combined with him hitting the ball, the way he hits the ball, like didn't he lead the league in home? Or I guess Aaron Judge did, but like he's an amazing hitter for being a pitcher. And
dude, he was like 10-3 pitching and hitting 45 home runs.
We've never seen somebody like this in the sport, like which is it's amazing.
Like he's doing laps around Babe Ruth.
Oh,
and Babe Ruth had way easier competition. Like but you don't ever see a hitter pitcher like that. Like it was that long ago when they were doing that.
Babe Ruth wouldn't even be able to play high school baseball right now.
That's not true. But there's a reason. Have
you ever seen videos of Babe Ruth playing baseball?
Yeah, but like think about if Babe Ruth had the same training and the regimen of today's players.
I'm not saying
You're just saying if you drop Babe Ruth from what he was doing back then into today.
Those guys were drinking whiskey, smoking cigs. They were not in shape at all.
And that guy was the pinnacle of that. That's
what I mean.
That's
how
a big Bambino.
Bad they were, dude. That's how bad baseball players were. Like we could probably go play in the MLB right now in the 20s.
But dude, it was so rare though for a guy to pitch and also be like the best hitter in the league. Like it's never happened since Babe Ruth.
That's why I think Shohei's going to be. No, what about Randy Wolf?
Randy Wolf.
Remember Wolf, the
Oh,
pitcher for the Dodgers?
yeah,
and he
18.
could hit. Yeah,
Yeah.
he could hit.
Yeah, dude, but he's not Babe Ruth. Like Shohei Ohtani is that guy.
Well, that's another big deal about Shohei coming to the National League because the Angels are American League. National League pitchers are the 9 spot. They're hitters. Pitchers hit in the in the American League. You have a DH.
No, I thought they got rid of that. I think they're all DHs now. Like the pitcher doesn't have to hit anymore.
Maybe. Yeah, you might be right.
But like he doesn't need it. He doesn't need to be a
Matter.
DH.
Yeah.
Like you can have him be a pitcher, be the 4th guy hitting as a pitcher.
Well, he's gonna be the DH when he's probably like what position would he play if he's not because he only pitch every.
No, he'd just
4
be
or
a
5
DH
nights. Yeah,
if he wasn't the pitcher
he's
that
not gonna
night.
play in the infield.
Or he might play like first base or something.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
So yeah, he doesn't have to hit, but he's a pitcher. So cool though. But
yeah, he's gonna be. He could end up being the best player to ever play the sport.
I think baseball is having an identity crisis though.
If it's just not America's game anymore.
It's not America's game because they're bring all the talent is coming outside of America.
There's still a lot of guys like I think that
Yeah,
Trey
Bryce
Turner,
Harper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike Trout, Bryce Harper,
Mookie
Trey
Betts.
Turner. I think that Trey Turner is one of the best damn players I've ever seen too.
Who he's
I
on
mean,
the Phillies right now?
Yeah, he is unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable. But yeah, baseball is having an identity crisis. I 100% agree. I mean, when you look at the viewership of the World Series from last year, like an NFL game gets double the viewership on a regular season Titans whatever game.
I think the NFL is just so domestic.
What do you think about that's what getting back to Mike Daniels though real quick? Them losing that game is kind of a massive loss for them, even though they're still 9-4.
They would have been the first seed in the AFC.
They should be 10-3 right now.
Yeah.
That is a massive loss.
That Will Levis kid is not bad.
Nah, I think
He's not bad.
I think he's not that good.
He plays hard. He's got a lot of heart.
Yeah, he plays hard.
Yeah.
Like if he's running the ball, he'll try to run you over.
But dude, he's getting D-Hop involved again. Like D-Hop had
Yeah.
no touchdowns before he started playing.
Dude, that D-Hop's his #1 target now. He knows. Like he's like, this is one of the best guys in the league.
But you can tell those players like they're riding with Will Levis. They're like, this guy's our quarterback. Like
Well, yeah,
this
now
guy's
they are.
firing us up.
But I don't think he's that.
It's like Tommy
good.
DeVito. You just got to get a team that want to play for you. Like Tommy DeVito
Yeah,
and
you
Will
would have
Levis.
saw the Giants 5 weeks ago before DeVito came in. You would have thought this team is just dead. I mean, they
Dead in the water.
Nobody cares to even play. Just like how the Raiders were and Devontae Adams was saying, I don't even care about winning or losing.
Yeah, it's an afterthought.
And then they win one game and then he gets fired up again.
Yeah.
Now they're losing again, so it doesn't matter. I mean, that last game was so bad. That's another thing. What do you think about that O'Connell? I think he's so bad.
But here's the funny thing. I think he's a guy who plays in the league for 10 years.
Yeah, as a backup.
So what? He's in the league for 10 years. Like, he's a capable
he's not
backup.
A start, like, dude, that Jake Browning for the Bengals, if he was playing for the Raiders right now, I think they would have easily won that Vikings game. I mean, their defense held the Vikings to 3 points.
Dude, that's real resilience by Jake Browning. That guy's got an incredible story. That guy.
He works his ass off every offseason.
I mean, dude, he'd never played for 6 years. He was in the league for 6 years, never played. Always in the practice squad, got moved around every other year.
I saw some shit that he just works his ass off
Yeah.
every offseason. He's going to California, throwing with guys, working out with the best quarterback coaches in the country. And now he's going to be a starting quarterback next year.
Yeah, and he's going to get a big contract too.
Yeah.
But like that's what makes the NFL so special is because you get a guy from California, played at an American university. Yeah, played at an American university, Washington, and we're able to see him just be so resilient and then finally like get paid off what he worked so hard for. And you get to see that he's a homegrown product. And, like, that's something you root for as a fan who's in the United States. And so, like, the NFL is so domestic. Like, it's so hardcore American. That's NFL football. You think about baseball, you think about basketball, like how they're declining in ratings and viewership. Well, it's because I think they're bringing all these international players in, and they're not, like, super open arms to, like, American culture, I think. Like the NFL players are. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you see, like, Tyreek Hill and stuff. Like, they're streaming now. Like, they're engaging with fans. They're actually, like, promoting themselves better. Like, something that they didn't for, like, forever. Like, the NBA was doing so much of a better job than that, like, promoting their actual superstars. But now the NFL has caught right back up to them, and it's like they're domestic products. And you can watch that. You can watch that knowing that this is an American sport. But when you think about baseball or basketball, it's not an American sport. It's an international, global sport with, like, global talent, which they're from places that most Americans probably don't even know where that is, right? You know, you see NFL guys like, oh, this guy's from Idaho. Like, this dude was grinding in Idaho, and now he's making $10 million in the NFL. What a story. But if you hear this guy from Kazakhstan playing in the MLB, it's like, where is Kazakhstan?
It's
like,
not-
I have
that's not
no
even a
relation.
country.
I have no relation. I have no relation to what that is, what that even means to me. But I know what Idaho, like, I know Idaho's on American
That's
State.
why, but that's kind of a good point. I think of why the UFC is doing so well right now is because their like roster of fighters are from all over the entire world. I mean, countries that you couldn't even pronounce, they have fighters from.
But
And
that's
these
a
guys
real
are
sport.
really good. Like, these guys are really good fighters. Like, they're getting these guys out of Uzbekistan.
But I think that's different, though, because I think fighting is so universally, like, just
Yeah.
accepted. Like, everyone has that, like, that aggression in them, like that fan. Like, everyone is aggressive.
Every
Everyone can
culture
understand
has
that.
fighters.
Yeah, like, and you don't speak. No one's talking to each other. You're just beating the shit out of the other guy, and you can root for that. Like, oh, dude, this dude's a bad mofo.
Yeah, like this weekend they have is UFC 296 or 297? I think 296.
Mm-hmm.
But it's Leon Edwards, the guy who head kicked Kamaru Usman, versus Colby Covington, the guy, Colby Covington,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
shithead. They're fighting for the belt, and then there's this guy named Shavkat Rakhmonov
Yeah.
from Uzbekistan, or he
Yeah.
might be from Kazakhstan. I think he's from Kazakhstan, but he has probably had about 5 UFC fights now. He's undefeated. He's like 16-0 or whatever he is, and he is so good. Like, if he wins, I forget who he's fighting. I think he's fighting Stephen Thompson, who is a really good guy, a really good striker. I think if he wins, he's right up there to fight for whoever wins in the Leon Edwards Colby Covington fight. And that guy, 5 years ago, nobody had ever even heard of this guy, and now he's in the UFC 5-0 and just mauling people from this country that nobody's ever even been to. And I just think, like, a guy like that, that's what's so big about the UFC. Like, they get a guy like that from Kazakhstan, and that just opens up their whole market to a country like Kazakhstan.
Mm-hmm.
And they have guys, like, from countries all over there that just open up their markets to these countries. And that's why the UFC is, I think, going to be one of the world's biggest sports. I mean, not like soccer, but
I think it definitely catches baseball.
oh yeah,
Yeah, it catches
I mean,
baseball.
it's already coming up there, dude. I mean, Conor McGregor, and Khabib Nurmagomedov sold like more than 2 million pay-per-views, and those people are paying $80 to watch that. Nobody's paying $80 to watch a baseball game.
Yeah, yeah. I think I just came up with a new phrase: athletic relativism. Athletic
What do you mean
relativism.
by that?
So, like, I think fighting is so innate in every person's nature. Like, they can understand fighting someone. They can relate, like, okay, that's a badass. Like, that's a cool dude. But, like, taking, like, a sport like cricket and putting it in the United States, and it's like, this is the dumbest thing ever. They just hit a ball and they run back and forth in a straight line. Like, this makes no sense to me. Like, they're just making up this game. And then the same goes with, like, baseball. Like, they're hitting a ball. They're catching it with a net. Like, I don't, like, how does that even, like, it doesn't make any sense in certain areas. Like, and especially if you're having different people from different areas of the world playing that sport on your own soil, you're like, I don't even understand this anymore. Like, what is this?
If you think of, like, this is a perfect way to put that. Like, if you think about, like, kids,
Mm-hmm.
like a 7 or 8-year-old kid, and you go put him out to play, like, sport like cricket
Yeah.
or baseball or whatever, they're just catching a ball. Like, nothing's really going off in their brain. Like, they're not really making these connections. They're just like, okay, you catch a ball, you throw it back, catch a ball, throw it back. When you watch a kid, like a 7 or 8-year-old, like, wrestle or do jiu-jitsu, they're going through all these positions, and you see, like, they start understanding, like, if you get caught right here, you do this, and then you can get out of it like this. And, like, you can literally see them, like, put these things together and start chaining these, like, submissions or transitions together.
Mm-hmm.
And they start doing things that, like, they've been taught the basics and fundamentals, but then they start doing things that you haven't even taught them that are actual moves. Like, it's, like, evolutionary almost. Like, it's in our DNA to grapple and to fight. Like, we've been fighting for thousands of years.
It's like track and field. Like, everyone can understand that's an athletic thing to do. But, like, with, like, certain sports like basketball, football even, like, they're like cultural phenomenons. Like, the reason
Yes.
basketball got invented was because they wanted to find an
That's a
alternative to
perfect way
playing
to
football.
put it. That's a perfect way to put it. They're
Yeah.
cultural phenomenons.
Like in certain areas of the world, they come up with a game and they start playing it. But then people on the other side of the world, like, that doesn't intrigue me at all. Like, makes zero
like
sense.
when do you think soccer was invented?
I'm sure soccer's got to be a really old sport. Like, I'm going to say 1500s. I'm just throwing a year out.
That's around what
I'm going to say
was thinking.
1500s.
That's around
I
what
think
was
golf was like 200 years after that. But like, yeah, there's certain movements of the human body that pretty much everyone around the world can make sense of by distinguishing what makes an athletic person athletic. And running straight, being able to move and dodge a punch and hitting someone back, like that's impressive that everyone can understand.
So the Chinese were the first to start kicking balls into nets as a sport in 3rd century BC, but that wasn't soccer. Soccer wasn't formalized until the 1800s.
Okay.
So
I feel like those like the people in 3 BC, they were just like cutting people's heads off and kicking.
yeah, well, that's what. But fighting, like, there's been like, when was the first Olympics?
Oh my gosh, BC.
And wrestling was in the
100
first
BC.
Olympics. Like pancration was in the first Olympics, which is basically like MMA. Like those were in the first Olympics.
Wasn't chariot too, like with horses, riding
Yeah.
a horse?
But I'm just getting at the fighting thing. Like it's just so into our DNA. Like these new sports are getting invented. They're cultural phenomenons, like how you said.
Mm-hmm.
But fighting is just so far back in our history. We've been doing it forever.
Yeah.
So it just makes different connections in our brain. Kicking a ball makes a different connection in your brain than grappling with somebody and throwing them or something like that.
And I think even more than ever, I think MMA or UFC has like, they tapped into like a territory for people and fans to be like, this is a gateway from like, because all society is like, you don't want masculine energy all the way like everywhere. Like you want to feminize everything. You want to make things softer, sweeter, less altercations. But when you go watch a UFC fight, that's where you can still do it.
I think
you can still watch. It's the most barbaric thing you can do today.
I think that could be the downfall. When the UFC has a CEO like Dana White who doesn't give a shit, he'll never change it. He'll never dumb it down. Keeps the blood in there. Keeps it all really violent.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fall of the UFC could be when Dana White retires and another guy comes in, or the guy after that comes in and starts getting.
He starts catering.
Catering to like
or panderverse.
Whatever the narrative.
Yeah, you're pandering to like the public.
You don't want any blood, maybe bigger gloves.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe no elbows or knees. Like it could really start getting dumbed down to a point where that could be the downfall of that sport. But when you have a guy like Dana White, who won't cater to anybody and just does what the hell he wants to do, it works. And it works really well. That was a one thing when the UFC, like those Fertitta brothers, because they owned the UFC for like 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were selling it to WME or whoever owns the UFC now, I'm pretty sure it's WME, one of the things in the contract was that WME said Dana has to stay as the CEO. That was the only way they would buy it.
Yeah, like the way he looks, his output on the world, the way he looks for the world permeates all the way down to what the UFC is. Like it's from the top down.
Dana White would be a great guest to have on for us.
But like how all sports is a distraction. I agree. You know how all sports is a distraction?
Yeah.
Like you want to get away from your real life, the
like
real
guys
problems
in prison
of the world.
Will play basketball, get distracted, play a game of basketball.
But like UFC taps into something even more valuable than that. It's a distraction, but it's also a revigoration of who we are from our very nature as humans. It's like fighting, being physical, fending for yourself.
As close to that as it gets, because
modern day gladiators.
Yeah,
modern day
Like
gladiators.
before you'd kill them. Like we get as close to that as we can nowadays. You can't kill people obviously nowadays on TV, but
and so it's a brilliant move, and that's why
why it's starting to work. And it from when COVID happened, and they were the only people putting on events.
Yeah,
like,
they got way bigger because of that too. The stance they took.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Trying to say like NFL, all these sports stopped. But then they eventually started up, like with the NBA had the bubble, which I think is cool that they did.
No, it was cool they did it because LeBron won.
That's the bubble ring.
Yeah.
But Dana basically took 2-3 weeks off, and he didn't lay one person off. And he said
we're gonna go fight in Dubai.
Figuring out we're gonna go fight in Dubai, or we're gonna fight at the Apex and just have nobody in there, and we're gonna take all the precautions we need to.
Yeah.
and we're gonna make this happen. And that was the only sport on for a while, and that's why they grew so much. And now they're reaping the benefits from that, from doing that one decision.
I think that goes back to like. I think it goes back to like how do you stand out in a world that is just so much filled with like so many options to choose from, and everyone's trying to copy everyone else, and everyone's trying to be something they see on social media. But I think the one thing that makes you viable enough to stand out and be like a little different is just being genuine.
Yeah, you just
if
can't
just
care
standing
what
on
people are saying.
stand on business, stand on what you believe. Don't just cater
like
pander
Dana,
to people.
When you say stuff about social media, and when he did that and made his stance that he's going to keep running the sport even when everything's shut down, and he got so much flack for it from a bunch of different groups of people.
Yeah.
But now he's reaping the benefits of it, and that like goes back to like during COVID, we all basically laid down and went into lockdown and just listened to the government that this is the worst virus ever. You can't go out, do things. Can't go to restaurants.
Yeah. Can't go to the beach.
Then, can't do any of that. Then when the vaccine comes out, you have to get the vaccine or you're the worst person ever.
Or you got to get the new vaccine too.
And guys like Dana White who make a stance, and they turned out to be right.
Yeah.
Same with Joe Rogan. Like, they turned out to be right in their stance.
And to be someone in that position, like, you have to take heat.
Yeah,
if you're going to be genuine and you're going to be consistent with who you are as a person, you're going to get heat for it. Because there's going to be someone with a different lens, with a different worldview saying, you're evil. Like, you're not, what are you doing? But if you're consistent with who you are and you're not trying to be fake, you just stand on your business. And I think that's what makes you stand out. That's what makes you an individual. That's what makes you a great coach. It's kind of what makes you good in anything. It's just being genuine with who you are. Because it's hard to fake being someone. So that's, I respect the hell out of Dana White. And I think it's the reason why UFC is so big now.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Benefit.
I'm not saying it's Rob Manfred's fault either. The owner or the owner of the MLB, right? He's the commissioner of the MLB.
Yeah,
he's the commissioner of the MLB. I like the way he changed the rules a little bit to make the game a little faster. I'm not saying it's Rob Manfred's fault entirely. I think it's just been a downward slope for baseball over the last probably 30 years, ever since they got rid of the steroid era. Like, people are hitting less home runs. It's harder to hit now. Like, the players aren't as relatable or as popular. Like, there's no more Pedro Martinez's, David Ortiz's, Manny Ramirez, Derek Jeters. Like, there's not one guy. Like, I can tell you more guys from the early 2000s than I can tell you now.
That's because we were way more into baseball back then.
But they're more iconic players. Like, Ken Griffey was around, Randy Johnson.
Yeah, but there's kids who are 12 years old who could name you every guy in the MLB now, just like we could back when we were 12 years old.
Probably, but there's probably less kids willing to play baseball than there were 30 years ago.
Baseball's a boring sport, man.
It's a hard sport. I like the way you sped it up, though. But
yeah, but it's just to play baseball. It's a very boring sport, man.
Yeah,
very boring sport.
So these sports leagues have been making so much money. Like, their evaluation over the course of a decade have just been increasing. Like, with the NBA and the dealers or the players' rights and the NFL and the UFC, and you see these like companies, these organizations just keep growing more in popularity and generating more and more wealth. As a whole, you see all these big institutions only getting bigger, and then you look at the U.S. debt. You look at it's $34 trillion. It has increased in every presidential candidate or every president who has been in office since Bill Clinton has increased the budget by at least, I think, $4 trillion.
I think Obama, over his time in office, doubled the U.S. debt.
Like, I think it was $8 trillion before Bush. It was like the deficit was only $8 trillion before Bush, and then Bush, obviously, we go to Iraq, we go to Afghanistan.
Yeah, but I think over Obama it doubled.
It doubled, yeah. You're just printing money. Obamacare. You want to print more money. You want to provide more people with like basic needs, but. I mean,
that's a slippery slope.
But here's the thing, though: the debt can't get paid. No one's going to pay for the debt. Like, how are you going to pay $33 trillion off? You're going to sell You're going to sell what? 10 Apple companies?
Are you going to print 33
You're going to liquidate 10 Apple companies.
Are you going to print $33 trillion?
Yeah. No. Like, how? Like, what is the logic with? And I don't know. What's the logic on this? How can you get out of debt by spending more money with debt?
I think what happens is what is happening with that debt now is the people that are in office now and people in the past who were in office, I think it's really started getting bad once it goes over $30 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
And like the people in office now that we've voted in and people in Congress, they're all, for the majority, are probably pretty old people. And I think they just are thinking like we can just keep raising the debt ceiling and keep pushing it and just
Have someone else worry about it.
Pawn it off on the next people and then pawn it off on the next people until one day it gets so bad to where we default on our debt.
Mm-hmm.
And that very well could be the start of the fall of America.
Well, it's just like how are you going to keep stretching the dollar? Because the only people that are benefiting from stretching the dollar are the people with the most money already. And so with people that are like barely hanging on, if you keep decreasing the value of money, they're only losing more power. And if they go bankrupt or they can't afford anything, they're going to get bought up by people that can't afford it. And so you're getting a bigger like disparity between the top 1% and the rest of everybody. So if the top 1% owns everything, that's a problem. That's a problem. And it's being perpetuated by the debt. It's getting perpetuated by how much money we're printing and by how much like we're raising minimum wage. We're making it harder for smaller businesses to stay afloat because it's not tied to anything.
And it's raising the prices. When they raise stuff like minimum wage, all it is raising the prices for us as consumers.
You're only killing off the smaller people. Like Amazon can pay their workers $45 an hour.
That goes right back to COVID. Like we can get deep into this of theorize why they shut down all the businesses is because they know all these small businesses are going to go under, and the bigger businesses are going to take up even a bigger chunk of the market than they already are. They're going to take up all those smaller businesses' market, and the government very well could have known that.
Yeah.
And because those big companies are companies that basically fund this country and run this country, those huge corporations, and all it does is benefit them, which in turn benefits the government.
This is a theory of mine. Maybe they just make the debt, like they know that the debt will never get paid for, so they're just going to keep stretching it out until it's like, unless they get someone just like takes over the country, like you have like another government to come in and help them out and then just default on the debt and then just erase the debt so it's gone forever. But like now it's a different government running it, or it's a different structure with how the government operates in. With the debt, that's like it's a burden. It's a burden, but it can be like you can just forget about the debt if it's not the U.S. government running it.
What we're gonna have to do if we really wanted to erase the debt, or even start knocking away and not raising the debt and start knocking it away, is spend considerably less on things like the military. Spend considerably less on public.
What? But you increase taxes?
No, you keep taxes the same. They make so much money off taxes already. It doesn't matter. But you just decrease spending and start putting it towards paying off the debt. Like wherever you're decreasing spending, say you decrease $500 billion a year.
Yeah, if you spend more than what you're actually bringing in,
and start knocking it off by like $500 billion a year, and you can have it. I'm not saying you need to completely wipe the debt away, but if you're putting $500 billion a year towards the U.S. debt problem, and say I know we're over 30 trillion, but let's just use 30 trillion as an example right now.
Mm-hmm.
Over 20 years, you're down to 20 trillion now, and it's looking a lot better in like America. But also that takes money out of things like public transportation, or maybe education, or maybe the military, and right now more than ever, the U.S. military needs the money.
You got to cut off government programs. You got to lay off government workers.
Yep.
You got to make the government smaller.
Yeah.
But then how do you do that? So if you're spending less and you're borrowing less, how do you sustain?
You basically got to borrow nothing.
No, but then how do you how do you sustain growth with that? Because you have to keep sustaining growth because you can't stagnate. Like GDP has to keep increasing by 2%, and if it doesn't, it's a huge problem.
I think you stop buying so many things from places like China and really outsourcing to China still, and you start sourcing from inside the country, and people start getting together, making factories in the country that can produce things like that they're producing in China.
But it'll probably be more
really
expensive.
Start becoming self-reliant.
But it becomes more expensive. Like the products are going to be more expensive homeland. Like if something's not getting offshored and it's just being made in the States,
they need to
you have to
figure
pay
out how
American
to not
workers
make it as
$20 an hour.
expensive. They need to figure that out.
Well, you can't lower the minimum wage. Like so, the minimum wage is the minimum wage now. Like you can't lower it.
That's only in California.
Yeah, okay, but like
there's places like Idaho, it's $7, dude. Like,
Yeah.
You just don't make a factory in California.
okay, but you still have to pay the workers more than what you would out of the country.
I get that, but you just start becoming more self-reliant. I mean, you can still trade with other countries, but you just start becoming more self-reliant.
So it's got to be like a pill that people have to swallow,
And-
saying like, "Hey, products at home are going to be a little more expensive, but we need to kind of lose some weight here. We need to kind of
It's
trim
just
the
you
fat
gotta
that
be-
we've kind of created for
It's
ourselves."
all about America. Like, you just got to give it and think about how many we have military bases in almost every country of the world. Like, those suck up so much money already as itself. Like, cut a lot of those out and just start becoming more self-sufficient as a country. And because we have the natural resources and we can still trade with other countries, like we just need to stop caring so much about what other countries are doing and start caring more about our own country.
Yeah, like even infrastructure, like rebuilding infrastructure, rebuilding cities that were long gone.
Like
Right.
Detroit and Chicago starting to get lost.
But like, where are you going to generate enough money to sustain that project?
Well, I don't even know if you so much do that type of project when you're trying to knock the debt out. You can't be spending money on these new cities that you're wanting to rebuild. They're already gone. Just focus on the cities that are doing well and really hammer on what's doing well and don't try to fix every little thing.
Well, no, okay, because if you bring jobs back, you're going to bring back, like, people are going to be more active in cities. Like, if you bring back jobs to Michigan or
Like,
Ohio.
if we totally stopped, like, importing cars, like German cars, like Mercedes and all that, and just only allowed American-made cars, and you can only manufacture them in the country, yeah, sure, the price might go up a bit of the car,
Yeah.
but it's giving so many more jobs to Americans. That's just one example.
But there's also, like, a lot of inefficiencies and a lot less money that could have been made that's not made, so there's a lot of dead weight costs there.
What do you mean?
Like, if you, okay, so if you're not importing as many goods from Germany, you're making less. And if you're making less, the price has to raise for people to buy buy the product, which means less people are even going to buy the product from the state. And less people.
That's their only option. That's their only option. You're only able to buy a Ford or a Chevy or American.
So you think there should be government intervention in economic activity? Like, you're not just a believer in the free market? Because I think this is a situation that we've gone into, is like we have opened international markets to our market, to our marketplace, and now we're trading freely with the rest of the world. But you're saying we need to have intervention by cutting the rest of the world off and start focusing about stabilizing
totally
prices
cut
in the
them
United
off.
States and
Yeah.
creating jobs more in the United States.
Not even creating more jobs. I'm just saying start focusing more on a country as a whole, because we do not, especially who's in office now, they do not focus on our country at all.
Mm-hmm.
And people need to start focusing more on America and stop focusing on pumping money into other countries.
Like, I think,
unless you're going to be making money off that money you're pumping into other countries, and it's going to contribute to lowering the U.S. debt.
yeah, and I think also too, if you're gonna keep stretching out the dollar, those like programs that you put in to like keep Americans afloat, like Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, like those programs, you cannot pay everyone that much money. It's going to run out of resources. It's going to run out of funds.
A lot of people don't even see their social
like,
security
we won't get Social
money.
Security.
Yeah.
Like, when we're 65 years old, that Social Security fund will not be there for us.
A lot of people already don't even get it.
Yeah. So, I don't know. It's like, so with that, it's like, there's so many options. There's so many options, like, in international markets to, like, to import goods, give them raw materials, outsource the labor to those countries that are cheaper. And so there's way more options. So how do you stand out? How can you make things better when everyone has a little bit of, like, everyone has a slice of the pie. Everyone has a hand in the pie. How do you get less hands out of there, or how do you stand out as one of the hands to, like, make it better? Like, we're talking about, like, let's just first we talk about the transfer portal. We talked about how there's so many more options to choose from, and like there's certain people that are getting screwed from the transfer portal. Then we talked about monopolies in baseball. There's certain teams that are getting screwed out because there's no cap space, and the Dodgers and Yankees are just buying up all these players. These smaller markets like the Oakland A's, they're moving out because they can't get any attention. They can't get any like fan support because no one cares. And then we talk about what else do we talk about? What makes a great coach? Being authentic, being genuine, not lying to your people, not lying to your teammates, not lying to your players. So with the same U.S. debt situation, if you're trying to fix the debt, you have to be transparent with the American people. With the people, you have to be transparent. You have to be genuine. You can't say one thing and then do another. You can't be helping some other team. You can't be helping countries all abroad and then forget about the home team. You have to focus on the team. And so I don't know. Like there's so many countries that the U.S. has to prop up to keep this system engaged. But if we're mainly just focusing on the team in America, how can we make those people's lives better? Well, you have to reduce, you have to mitigate the exposure that we have to international markets and focus more.
That's what I was trying
primarily
to get at,
on creating American businesses to thrive again and making housing more affordable and maybe taking less buyers out of the marketplace so then the buyers at home can benefit more than people outside international.
Stop loaning our money outside of the country and loan it to Americans to buy things like homes.
Yeah.
Stop loaning our money outside of the country, hoping that we're going to make a return on that money when we have loaned so much. We've talked about this so many times about loaning money to Ukraine.
Yeah, but so we're in debt and we don't have enough assets to tie that debt together. We need to come back home. We need to almost have to have a protectionist mindset of how do we protect American interest? How can we make the American public feel prideful of this country again? You need to help them. You need to give them a shot to even have a chance to play the game. Because you're competing with all these people internationally with all this money, and we're catering to them. We're giving them debt, and they're giving us assets in return. But it's not our assets. We just handle their money, but there's really nothing tied to it. Money does not mean anything. But if there was a way to make things a little more affordable for the American public, I think we almost have to take a sidestep in growth and put it more or emphasize more on stability. What's something that's going to last for 200 years in the future? And not think about the short time, not think about a short time frame of how can I maximize profits without and then forgetting about what are the consequences of maximizing profits and ignoring a certain group of people. We're the Oakland A's. The American people are the Oakland A's. We don't get enough money. The money's going to international markets. They're going all over the world, but we're getting ignored, and we're losing less interest in our team. That's why there's no American freedom. There is American freedom, but there's no pride. There's no pride. It's the same thing with college football.
That's how I got
There's so many
with
people.
Alabama. You got to have a person first. It all gets back to people in office and who our president is. We have no respect for the last couple of years of who our presidents are.
But this has been a buildup. This has been a buildup because people don't trust the system.
Social media plays the biggest role in this. It all comes back to that. Social media plays the biggest role in being able to push out these narratives and divide the country when not everybody, but the majority of the country 30, 40 years ago was on the same page.
Yeah. This country should not be a game of Monopoly.
It's sad to say this. It really is sad to say this, but it's is it going to take something like a 9/11 to get the whole country to be on the same page again? Is it going to take a tragedy to have people start putting American flags in front of their house again and loving America?
I think it's going to have to It's going to have to be it has to be an emphasis on creating American infrastructure. It has to be an emphasis on seeing things around you improving, right? If you see a bunch of homelessness on the street, you see buildings crackling down, being dilapidated, how can you have pride in the area you're living in? If you're seeing projects being done on things around you, you see people getting jobs, people able to buy houses again, people in their 20s and 30s. They're just starting a family. They're able to afford a home, a decent home in a nice area that doesn't have a lot of crime. If you're able to come back and focus on that, I think that's what will bring America like more pride, and it will give people a sense of hope in the system, because the institutions have failed us. That's why everyone is questioning the institutions as like legitimate in our interest, and they're not. It seems obviously they're not, right? They're thinking about everyone abroad. And yeah, I think that's what it is. I think we have to sacrifice growth in the name of stability. And so I don't know. And I think if you do that, I think that stability soon turns into more assets, which you can even finance more money to. Then you can come back and start financing the world again. But we just don't have the assets to tie anything together. And also, if we're going to prop up all these other countries to be as legitimate as us, once we leave, they become weaker. So we're playing this game, and we should get out of the game by helping everybody out and instead help us instead. All right?
Yeah.
Because they should worry about them. They don't like us anyways. Like, they don't even want our support. Like, they're so stubborn. They're like, let us handle our own conflicts.
That's
okay,
the
fine.
problem with America.
Okay, fine. Like, screw off then. We're done giving you money. We're done giving you military infrastructure. We're done giving you that support. We're done. We're going to come back. We're going to focus on the American people, and we're not going to give you any money because you don't even care. You don't even care. You're in Afghanistan for 20 years. You build up this military for the Afghani government. And that army lost to the Taliban in a week. They gave it all away in a week. You're trying to train these countries abroad of how to defend themselves, but they don't even care with what you're teaching them.
Yeah, but it wasn't even that we were really caring to train these people. There was so much more.
But we were trying to build a government, like an army for them, and they just did didn't do anything.
Yeah, but I think we profited greatly off the Afghanistan war.
Absolutely, but the American public suffered.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The American public suffered.
We're getting.
What are we at right now? It doesn't say.
No, but we're getting way over an hour. We're way over an hour.
Are we really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I tied everything back to that because there needs to be an emphasis on American pride, and I think if you oversaturate the markets, there will be a group of people that are going to suffer from it. So do you want that people that are going to suffer be us? Do you want the home team, the team that we're here to represent? Do you want those people to suffer because of things going on that no one even knows what the hell's going on over there besides intelligence? It's hard, and they're using taxpayer money, they're overspending, and they're printing money out of nowhere with no assets tied to it. And so I guess the underlying message of this is being genuine, being real, being consistent, being transparent. And I think that's what makes you stand out in today's world. In a world of copycats, in a world of pretenders, in a world of fronters, of people saying I look like this, but in reality they don't, like social media, like people seem so fucking happy. It's just be genuine. Be genuine to who you are, and that's the only thing to go about. Like, that's what will actually make people like you, is if you are genuine. Like, maybe people will hate you because you are who you are, but you'll find people that actually do respect your
that's the
your
problem
integrity
with people being genuine today. People there's groups of people that hate people who are genuine like that.
Mm-hmm.
Just like how people hate Dana White because you stand for something that they hate.
Yeah. And I guess this is like almost like a critique to like, it's almost like a critique to capitalism in a way, because it's just like we have focused mainly on making more money, on continuing growth, and we've forgotten about, if we're a basketball, or actually if we were like a bowling ball, like think about how like the ball, think about the volume, and then think about like what's in it, like how dense is that? How dense is in the ball? Our
balls
economy,
aren't that dense.
Huh?
I don't think bowling balls are that dense.
No, they're heavy.
Yeah,
they're heavy
but
though.
I think that you can crack them.
No, okay, but it's heavy, like compared to a basketball.
Like a golf ball.
You hold on to it.
Dense.
Yeah.
A golf ball's
super
dense.
dense. Like the volume it is. We have think about that like core as like the middle class that holds up this country. It's getting hollowed out to the point where if something happens, like if you drop the ball, it's glass. It's gonna break. It's all gonna shatter. It might look huge. It might look like a big ass ball, but the core of it
is getting
hollow.
Eaten out.
It's hollow. There's
Almost
nothing in there. It's not sustainable.
Like a tooth. Like a tooth when it gets a cavity, it starts eating it out from the inside out, and then eventually that tooth will crumble or break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like,
So the thing holding up the country, one day it'll crack and crumble.
yeah. So if you want to keep pumping air into the ball, like you want to keep opening up markets for people, getting more buyers
Or
in
you want to
this,
keep raising the U.S. debt ceiling until one day you can't.
and the ball looks bigger, the GDP looks big, and it's inflating. It's inflating because the debt's going
it's inevitable.
skyrocketing up.
It's inevitable. We both know it's inevitable. One day we're going to have it. We could very well be in the last throes of our dying empire.
No, I don't. I think if we have a real man in the mirror moment where we look inside
that's
as
what
a
we
country,
need.
and we need to realize what can we do to make it better. Because we had it really well, and now it's kind of crumbling. What can we do to sustain it? How can we sustain America's ideals?
There's just too many people that are making too much money off the way that these people that have power, they're making just too much money that they don't want anything to change.
Yeah.
And they're old people. They know I've probably got 30 years left.
It's turned into crony capitalism.
Right. Yeah.
It's turned into lobbyists controlling the government. It's turned into like who gets elected is based off like who's putting the most money in the campaigns. Yeah, it's like it's a crony capitalistic oligopoly. It's what has happened. And the people that are playing for this team are not getting clean clothes. We're getting worse equipment. We're not getting better equipment. We're getting worse equipment. We're getting the same equipment as the team that are getting the equipment from us. We have the same fucking equipment as the other team that we're financing. It's like, why can't we have better stuff than them? So I don't know. I'm going to leave on that note. So guys, be genuine. Stand out a little bit, you know. And if people don't like you, well, they don't like you. Get over it. So if you made it this far, keep listening and go fuck yourself.